all so much for being here today. We're going to get started. Okay, are we ready to go? Hi everybody, my name is London Breed. I'm the supervisor for District 5, and I'm here today to introduce comprehensive graffiti reform in our city, not just from a legislative perspective, but from an administrative perspective. We have a number of city departments here today, and I want to thank them all so much for working with me. The Department of Public Works, the MTA Director, Ed Riskin, the Department of Public Works Director, Mohammed Nuru, our City Attorney, Dennis Herrera, the San Francisco Police Department, 311, and a number of other folks are joining us today. We all know, based on the recent budget and legislative analyst report from the Board of Supervisors, that graffiti in San Francisco is costing us almost $20 million a year. That doesn't even include private property owners who, in many cases, are either cleaning or painting over the graffiti themselves, or we're doing it and we're billing them for it. It's time that we make some changes in order to reduce the cost, not only to taxpayers in general, but to our entire city. So in developing this legislation, my goal was not to just follow the traditional introduce legislation and wait in order for it to be enforced. We, in fact, decided to work with all of these city departments to ask for additional resources, number one, but number two, to make what they already do more efficient. And so there are many pieces to this puzzle, so I just ask that you bear with me so that I can explain, first of all, what we plan to do. We estimate that over 90% of the graffiti offenses are committed by the same people. Pursuing a criminal case for one act of graffiti, one tag, is rarely an effective use of resources, and the criminal courts have proved inappropriate medium for prosecuting such offenses. Their resources are overtaxed, and the burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt is often difficult to achieve unless you have serial offenses and you have each of those cases on film. Civil courts, however, require a more attainable way to try and go after offenders, and we recognize that a unique tag is often a signature of a specific offender. So our task is to collect, curate, and employ the evidence. So basically what we plan to do is centralize the evidence by collecting the city's graffiti abatement employees using technology to their DPW and MTA. Their employees will be able to use their smartphones in order to report graffiti to our 311 system. That will also automatically send that information to the police department so that they can prepare a case. So through our 311 app, which already exists, our goal is to make sure that we define a cost structure of abatement to make the process more efficient, and that we are able to put out a case in order to deal with graffiti offenses. Chief Greg Sir has added additional staff support, which was definitely needed, to the police department, so we will have an additional crime analyst and police officer on an as-needed basis so that they can develop these particular cases. And the big part of this case is something different. Instead of working with the district attorney's office and making it a criminal case, we will be working with the city attorney's office, and it will be a civil case. So not only will we have the ability to address offenders through volunteer service and other means, but we'll actually be able to go after them monetarily. So in East Los Angeles, for example, they saw a 55% drop in the number of graffiti offenses over a 4-year period. If we dropped by 55% of the offenses based on what we spend now to abate graffiti, that'll be $11 million, potentially. So the legislation component of what I'm introducing today will do a few things. It will revise the city's graffiti ordinance, the Public Works Code, Section 1300, so that it can be exercised against the perpetrator of graffiti, not just the victim, which in many cases are the property owners. The second thing that it'll do is codify the city attorney's authority to pursue civil damages for graffiti on both public and private property. The third, we're going to revise the park code to ban the possession of spray paint, etching tools, and slap tags in any city parks. Number four, we're going to revise the police code to prohibit anyone with a recent graffiti conviction or a plea from carrying spray paint, etching tools, or slap tags on muni vehicles. Lastly, our legislation will add a general policy that city departments will collaborate on graffiti evidence collection and pursue all effective enforcement. The most important part of what we're doing here is bringing all the pieces of the puzzle together. The people, the departments that deal with graffiti, the city attorney's office who can help us go after those folks who commit those crimes, the police department. We are all working together in the city as partners to address this problem and to be more aggressive about how we do so. So I want to thank everyone who has worked so hard to help us overhaul this process. This has been, months in the making, and I think with a little collaboration and technology, we can see and measure this problem over the next couple of years and see a decline in the number of graffiti offenses committed. I think this will be better for the city. It'll be better for graffiti victims, but also it will hold offenders accountable for their actions, not just maybe hours of community service, but more importantly, digging in their pocketbooks to make sure that they're paying for the crimes they're committed, and they're also cleaning up other graffiti throughout our city through community service. So we have a great lineup of speakers today, and again, there are so many people that help to make this possible, again, both through legislative and administrative means. And the biggest piece of this is that we are taking this issue out of the hands of the criminal courts and bringing them to the civil courts so that we can effectively hold people accountable for these particular crimes that impact the quality of life in our city. So I just want to thank you all for being here. And one of the biggest, Mr. Clean himself is here today, Muhammad Nuru, the Department of Public Works. His team is charged constantly with documenting this information, with cleaning it up all over our city, and he's dealing with a big part of it. He holds a graffiti conference every year so that folks can come together to talk about making a difference on our streets with graffiti. And so without further ado, I want to give you Director Nuru so he can talk a little bit more about his piece of the puzzle.